Okay, welcome to the second session of the second day of the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs Annual Conference. And this session is going to be a panel discussion about religion and the intersection with disabilities. And we have a really great panel, I think. I am going to, I'm not going to do really in-depth introductions of our panelists because I want them to be able to tell you all about themselves, but I'll just go through the list of the people who we'll have on this panel. So we have Ms. Jeanette Dunn, who is Catholic, practicing Catholic, Shantae Johnson, who is Baptist. We have Christina Kozik, who is Methodist. We have Pastor Chris Lazard, who is non-denominational Christian. We have Stuart Simon, who is Jewish. And we also have Rawida Abu Khalil, who got on but having technical difficulties. She should be getting on any minute, and she is Muslim. So we are I'm going to start off and just ask each of our panelists, and I'll go in the order that I kind of said your name, which is in alphabetical order by last name. I'm going to ask each of you guys to introduce yourself, your name, your religious association, and also your connection to disability. So, Ms. Jeanette.
Good morning. I'm Jeanette Dunn. I live in Baton Rouge. I am a retired teacher from the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I am a member of St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church here in Baton Rouge. My daughter, April Dunn, was very active in the church as well as the community, and I know most of you know her. She was also very active in the order that we belong to, the NYSA Peter Claver Ladies Auxiliary.
Thank you, Ms. Jeanette. And next, Ms. Shantae Johnson. Shantae, can you unmute yourself? You're still muted. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. I'm Shantae Johnson. I live in Monroe, up in North Louisiana. I am a member of Roller Sharon Missionary Baptist Church. I am a legislative assistant for Representative Pat Moore, and my son Tristan is on the autism spectrum.
You're on mute, Bambi.
Thank you, Lillian. I am not the prolific panel facilitator as Lillian is, but I'm going to try and make my way through this, but I appreciate Lillian helping out. So Christina, if you would answer your name, religious association, and connection to disability.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Christina Kozik. I am part of the Methodist Church. I'm in Mandeville, Louisiana, and my son has disabilities, and I also have disabilities.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Pastor Chris Lazard.
How y'all doing? My name is Pastor Chris Lazar. I'm the senior pastor of Spirit of Elijah Life Institute Church here in the city of Opelousas. I currently work with CASA St. Landry as training and recruitment coordinator in my association with disability. My sister has trisomy 9, and I recently have nerve damage in my left leg. So those are my connections to disabilities.
Thank you very much. And Stuart, my good friend Stuart Simon, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Stuart Simon. I'm the webmaster and Len faculty at the Human Development Center in New Orleans, at LSU Health Sciences Center. I also sing in the choir at Toro Synagogue. And I myself, my connection with disability is that I myself have ASD. So,
Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate that. And Stuart, if we can just start with the next question, I'll just let you continue and tell us, how has your religious background influenced your experience with disabilities?
it's one of ASD people. We tend to exhibit gifts in those areas, and my Judaism was actually one of those areas.
How so?
In that I was actually I didn't actually get involved with anything. I wasn't allowed to until we first moved to New Orleans, where the community was small and tightly knit. And so and that in a way provided it to flourish. Very, very much unexpectedly, and still, I don't know why it happened. All I know is that it did.
Thanks, Stuart. And I'll go back. I see that Raida has joined us, and
Hi.
everyone has introduced themselves and said their religious association and connection to disability. So would you like to share that as well?
Sure. So my name is Rowena, or Rowena, whatever, however you want to say it. I am a Muslim, and I help a organization brought to New Orleans called Muhsin, which is an acronym for Muslims Understanding and Helping Special Education Needs. We're trying to give everybody here help that they need. You know, there's a big language barrier, there's a big culture barrier, big stigma problem in our community, and cultures from all different backgrounds. And it's all whether they accept the disability, don't accept the disability. Some of them are lacking help in the education system because they don't want to admit to it, that their kid has anything, that they have an exceptionality. And that's what we're here for.
And I'll just go ahead and let you answer the next question, because we're moving on to that. The next question, which is, how has your religious background influenced your experience with disability?
So in our religion, in Islam, we have rights that I never knew about. You know, we have rights over our kids. We have rights. It's called haq in the Arabic language, where you have to. It's like a promise between you and God, that if God gave you something, whatever He gave you with, you have to do the best you can possibly give them, and that's not just feeding them and changing their diaper. That's teaching them and you know, making sure that their God conscience, the rights of others, that they're not taking the rights of others. You're giving them everything they need. I'm sorry, I might get emotional. It's, you know, God loves those that do their best for others, and we're here to service others. So we're all ambassadors to service others. And you have no getting away from that when God gives you a kid like this. So we have to stay there. We got to go through it. You know, they say you push back and you push back until you hit a wall and you can't go back any further. So you got to stand up on your own, and all of a sudden you're just learning all these new things.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point. I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And so next I'll ask Pastor Lazar, can you tell us how your religious background influenced your experience with disability?
So my sister has been, has trisomy 9 from birth, and my dad is actually a pastor as well. So we've always had her in our family, and so we always went to church. Always were in church, and she sometimes she has this outburst, and her disability has really taught us how to, it not only taught our family how to advocate for her in those spaces, but it's also taught those around us that, I know like back in the day when we had older people, that were disabled, they kind of didn't let them go into public places and, and religious spaces because of because of their disabilities. But my parents were so much advocates for my sister that even in the school system, like they were making sure that she had a safe space in everything. So our religion, what we knew always was, hey, Annalisa is going to come to church with us. Annalisa is going to do this with us. She's going to do that with us. And then now, with my disability now, because there's such a culture built around it in my dad's church, it's kind of transferred to our church. That that people with disabilities, it's not even taboo anymore. It's accepted, and it's surrounded by love and support. So those are some of my experiences with it.
Thank you. And Christina, would you like to share about your experience?
Sure. So we actually didn't join our church until after my son was born. And, we were always mindful of like childcare and how they would be able to help him. And so we wanted, we wanted to find a place that was loving and accepting within the Christian denomination. And we found that where we were at. So I grew up with a religious understanding that, we love each other, we take care of each other, we serve each other. And I wanted to make sure that when we found some place to raise our son, we would have that. And we did, we found that. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
That's perfect. Thank you. I asked Shantae, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. In my area, normally in the past, someone that had most physical disabilities or maybe a mental disability, it was taboo to even discuss those or illnesses or issues related to, anything with the disability, and more so within church. But now they're more open and embracing of the disability, of the issues that families are having, with persons with disabilities or, a child with disability. They're supporting and embracing. They're actually going out in the communities with their members and members of different various members of society. Whereas if they're needing assistance with things outside their home, within the community or whatever, most churches now in the Baptist area, they have embraced me and my son with a lot of things that, that we do socially within the community, because that's part of, there needs to be they are a value member of society.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Ms. Jonette?
Okay, my experience in the church with people with disabilities, when I first brought April into my home through the foster care system, she went to church with us. So from an infant, she had been going to church. Once I was able to adopt her, she was raised Catholic. She went through all the sacraments in the Catholic Church. She was welcome. She was always included in whatever the other children her age were doing. She went to religious classes with the other kids. She was always included. I normally sat in the classes with her or nearby. I used to teach religion classes years ago. But I would always be aware or monitor how she was progressing in the classes. She did well. The kids accepted her, the teachers accepted her. As she became older, she became a member of the junior choir. She also joined the NYSA Peter Claver Ladies Auxiliary, which was the last organization she was able to join in the Catholic Church, and she was very active in that organization. So my experience has been that people with disabilities have been welcome. I notice in the church when people come in who are in wheelchairs or who have other disabilities. Sometimes they may make noises or something. Nobody is turning around, frowning their faces. Everybody's accepted and everybody's included. And I love that about my church community.
Got it. I have to unmute myself. Thank you, Ms. Jonette. I would like to know, how does, and anyone can answer, how does your religious organization, your church, your faith, how does it provide support for people with disabilities? You all shared some positive, I think, some positive experiences, and where you are now seems to be pretty positive within your faith, or at least you're finding a way to make it a positive experience for people with disabilities within your church and your religious organization. But how does your religious organization provide support for people with disabilities?
I can go first if you like.
Sure.
So we have to go to a pilgrimage once in our lifetime. And of course, people with kids with special needs, you can't really go travel to Saudi Arabia and leave them behind for 2 weeks or so. So the reorganization that I'm affiliated with had accepted my daughter to come with us, and she also performed it along our sides. And they also gave us 8 hours of support for whatever I wanted to do with my husband. We went out, we went shopped, we did like it's called like a half pilgrimage called Umrah. They took care of Nejwa, and my daughter is 24 years old, by the way, and she's autistic. So they took her off of my hands for about maybe 8 hours a day. And they gave her whatever she needed to be comfortable. And thank God I had her, because I got lost so many times and she knew her way around, and we, Ahmad Sliman, our imam, always, he compares to the children or adults, anyone with special needs, as angels in disguise. So we have to meet those needs, and we have to be on our best behaviors to make sure we give them everything they need. Our preachers and our imams, they always teach us and help, with the acceptance of what's destined for us. He says, be and it is, and we have to go with the flow. And we have to believe that we're specifically chosen to care for these angels in disguise. So that's what those people did. The organization helped us so much. They made it so much easier. They had a whole bunch of volunteers that came along. We had doctors, we had nurses, we had therapists. We had ASL interpreters. They took them, they taught them, they played with them, they made them feel special. They did not feel different at all. Whatever services we had, they all had. And I was just so proud to be part of that team. And that's what helped me join their organization.
And the organization is, can you say it again?
Muhsen, MUHSEN. And the acronym stands for Muslims Understanding and Helping Special Education Needs. So over here in New Orleans right now, we're trying to make sure our community, we try to reach out to them, and some people find us, and then we go try to, we use our social media platforms. We try to reach out to those that don't understand the language. So we translate it in every language, try to reach out to their, the Urdu community, the Arabic community, Hispanic community, not just those that speak English and read English. So we try to reach out to them, make sure that they know we're here for them to come to us for help and resources, because they really don't know how many resources are out there. When my daughter was growing up, there was no resources. I only had magazines for the parenting and baby magazines, because back then you had to be like really rich to own a computer. And that's how I taught myself how to deal with my daughter. That's where my parenting skills came in.
Thank you. And does someone else want to talk about how their organization supports people with disabilities?
I'll chime in on that. So one thing that I love about my church and my just the churches I'm associated with, it's when they don't know how to support, they ask how can they support. I think they're so keen, like just to dealing with people with disabilities, is that their support looks different. It looks different across the board. So sometimes, even my mom passed away in 2018, and my sister, we didn't know how she's going to react to it, how she's going to deal with it. But the ladies in our church and even our family, they came together and they learned how to deal with her disability. and they learn. So now my dad, he has her full time, but she gets to get out the house with other people. She gets to go to the store, and she get people that take their time with her. So support, like, and even for me, with my leg situation, I can't walk long distances, and my foot doesn't do what it used to do, and I seen how people would like come to me instead of just doing, they'll ask, "Hey, how can I do this? How can I do this?" And those things make a world of a difference, because sometimes with disabilities comes insecurities, and you don't want to say, "Hey, this is what I need." So when people can come up to you and support you and ask how can they do it, and ask how can they help, I think that makes the biggest difference to me.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Bambi, I'll go ahead and respond to that question also. I know
Okay.
from my experience with the churches that I am affiliated with and have been attending, my son Tristan, for him to be included, they have, like I said, they embraced us, and they first would ask, what is it that we, how can we help, and what do we need to do? Is there any training that I can get or we can get? So they're wanting and willing to accept the help and accept the training to make sure that we are included. My son, it was Youth Sunday, and they asked, could he come up and do say the prayer for Youth Sunday? Me as a mom, I was nervous. I'm just like, no, he doesn't, he doesn't know, he can't, he's partially nonverbal, so his speech is kind of limited. But I've always taught him a modified prayer to say his own, he says his own prayer. He got up, and I think at the time he was about 5. So he got up and they welcomed us and said, said his prayer, and they congratulated him. And he was happy. He didn't want to give up the mic after that. But, they were more than willing and able to include us in any type of way. Also, they've asked us, we have some sensory kits. They've asked us, what more can we do? So most churches now, or they are limited on some things that they can do and offer for the disabled disability community, but they are willing to assist in any type of way, where they're opening their doors now to host community of resource fairs and health fairs. That way the community, not just their membership, but the persons or the community can come together and find resources that are there in the cities to actually help the members.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Stuart, I saw you had unmuted your mic earlier.
I was going to go when Shantae piped in, and I mean, what we don't sorry, I had to look at her name. What Rita said first instantly made me think about the one time that I really had to connect my Judaism to my disability, and that was not all Jews visit Israel. We don't have anything like a religious obligation the way Muslims do to the Hajj, but we have organizations that encourage people to go to Israel at least once in their lives. As it happens, I've been 6 times, and I may be preparing to go to a 7th, but that's just that's still up in the air right now. Anyway, but one of my trips to Israel was with this group of almost like-minded individuals, youths with ASD or some other different diagnosis. no physical disabilities for the most part, but intellectual and social disabilities were well represented, and really it's a life-changing experience if you ever get to go. Like, Israel alone is life-changing, but Israel with a bunch of people you're in the same boat with, and you experience jet lag together, you eat together, you do things together in a strange land. That's really something. It's an experience like no other, and that's so. Anyway,
Thank you, Stuart, for sharing that. Does anyone else want to respond to that question?
I can add a few more things about what our program is starting to do. We're still in the early stages, but we help. So we already started, we rent out a space at the library, and we put a call out in the local mosques, near and far. So Mustin teaches advocacy, we educate, we train parents, and we implement programs and services nationwide to improve access to all mosques, we call them masajid, for disabled and special needs individuals, as well as acceptance and inclusion by the community in all aspects. We make sure there's enough handicap parking. We make sure that the bathrooms are accessible. There's a purification we have to do before we pray. So we make sure that it's, wheelchair level. We make sure that the sinks are wheelchair level, that it's a wheelchair sink where they could just roll in. We make sure the doorways are all specified measurements to make sure they're wheelchair accessible. We make sure that there's wheelchair ramps. We're making sure we're trying to add ASL interpreters for those that, are deaf and that are not coming because of course they can't hear anything. So we're doing our best. We're trying to make sure we're trying to hit every aspect that we can possibly get to include everyone in the community, because those with special needs are those that are mostly forgotten.
Thank you very much for that. And I'd just like to get some perspective from our other panelists in regards to how do you ensure that the spaces where you have your religious gatherings, that they are accessible to people with disabilities?
if I can jump back from that, yes. Again, Rowita put me on the right path here. At Touro Synagogue, we have this thing that occurs at the same time as Jazz Fest called Jazz Fest Shabbat. And it's then when I'm sitting on the bima next to the door to the elevator, that it's very new. You didn't used to be people using wheelchairs until very recently didn't have access to the stage-like area where the service is being led. Now they can have access to the, like my grandfather, for instance, back when I was bar mitzvah age, my relatives and I were all sitting on the bima, and he had to sit out in the aisle. However, if he were alive today and I had my bar mitzvah yesterday, or just this past Saturday, then he would have been on the bima just like everybody else.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sorry for throwing words out there. It's a Hebrew word. It means it's just the area from where from where services are led, the raised platform.
Okay.
So,
But that's progress.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, that. It's definitely progress.
And as I hear some of your discussion, I think back to whenever my son was little, like 20 years ago, and had autism, and it was all over the place. And so whenever we talk about accessibility, sometimes we think about just physical access, or we think about like ASL interpreters. But at that time, what he needed was some environmental modifications. So he might go into, he wanted to part of the disability was to know what was going on everywhere. So opening up doors, or just kind of these behaviors of cutting on and off the lights. So I can remember in our church, and the educational building is what it was called, was they would put some little maybe like the air condition, the boxes you see over air conditions, they would put that over the lights so that he couldn't go in and cut off people's lights while they were in class, or those type of things. And so the church just, they came up with those things without me really asking, because I was just a young mom and overwhelmed. So, and just like, oh my goodness, I don't want my child to be, causing any type of disruption in the church activities. But they stepped up and found ways to make it more comfortable, and make me feel more at ease with attending those meetings. So I'm just wondering if any of you guys have had those type of situations that you would want to share.
Yeah, I can. Oh, I can add to that. So in our church, we don't have a designated like area or program for children with disabilities. We include them, right into the Sunday school classes, whatever other kind of children's programs we have going on, they're included. But we do have a special needs person, somebody that's over that. And she's actually a special education teacher in the school system. So she's very up to date on, what's going on and things like that. And so what I really like, and what I always try to be mindful of, is I teach Sunday school and I work in the children's program. So I always try to be mindful of the children that I know either have a disability, or maybe I don't know, but I can tell they're getting overwhelmed, sensory overload, or whatever it may be. And just being mindful of getting on their level, talking to them, helping figure out what do we need to do, so that way they can either have a moment to, to calm their emotions or their sensory overload. And then also being mindful of the other adults that I work with, to help educate them on how we would interact with, certain children or certain groups of children. So that way everybody's comfortable, because I know some adults that don't work with children with disabilities regularly, they're just not comfortable. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say or how to act. And so I'm also mindful of working with them on like, hey, let's try this approach next time. That might be better for you and for them. But yeah.
I want to chime in on that. So when my sister first, whenever she got agitated or she was in church, and like it switched, like from when she became 16 years old. My dad said she really became a woman, because now she started acting like more girly and stuff like that. And like she just does all kinds of things. She sees a nice looking man, she pats her hair down, like it, just all kind of stuff. So when we were in church and she got into a place where she didn't feel like being in there anymore, we had stuff in the back that she can do. They had coloring books, they had different things that would keep her occupied. And then sometimes she'll stay in there the whole time, and then sometimes she'll come back. With me, with my disability right now, I preach. I've been preaching for about 12 years now. So when I no longer can get on, like Stuart said, those raised platforms, I was insecure. And I was like, oh man, I can't do this. And it's hard for me. And I thought for like a long time that people were not going to, that when they would call me to go different places, like I can't go because I can't get on your stage. Where am I going to, preach from? But my church, I get on this, we have a couple of stuff, but I have a table where I sit down and I can put my laptop on and I can speak and preach from that table. And other pastors in the area who want me to come over and speak to their church, they have made accommodations for me to go to their churches. And it's just a crazy thing that my insecurity with it of like, no, I'm not going to do it because I can't do it. But their support in that area of being accommodating and being understanding that I could not go up on the platform. So maybe my seat would be on the ground, and it wasn't less as important as the ones that were up there, even though I felt like, they're not going to acknowledge me as a pastor, but they make sure that I feel safe in those spaces. And they still, even to this day, they still call and they still do those things. And so I think just being accommodating like to anything, people, we don't know a lot about a lot of things, we're underinformed about a lot of things. So I think that when they do see it and they are intentional about finding out how can I better serve you, or how can I better make you feel comfortable here, I think those things are the best.
I think that brings to mind, Pastor Lazard, is how oftentimes our religious institutions are very ritualistic in how we do certain things. And if people cannot participate in the way that it is expected to be, how does those institutions shift and accommodate those practices? And so like you said, typically the practice is going up on a raised platform, and that, or some people think that that's just the way it has to be. The pastor has to be up on that platform, but there's ways to say that doesn't necessarily have to be, to still be able to worship in the way that, that's honoring your religion and your faith. So I appreciate you sharing that. Does anyone else want to share anything in regards to that or something else? Shante?
I do, yeah. I think part of kind of with COVID, how everything had to be readjusted and modifications and accommodations had to be made with COVID, where I'm gonna say 10 years ago, we probably would never have been doing things virtually. We wouldn't have sermons, the YouTube pages with churches, or, the Bible study over the telephone on a conference call. So COVID kind of pushed everybody, or pushed the congregations to be more accepting, be more, to have more things that were accommodating to not just only their members, but to members of the disability community as well, where they were able to not having to go out their home. There's still some that are still afraid to go out of their homes for various reasons, health issues or what have you, but they're still able to be included within church services, within choir practice, within prayer meeting or conferences or whatever it is that, their faith may be having at that time. It's just more things that can be done, especially like I'm in the rural area. So it's a barrier when they don't have access to certain resources, but they're trying. So I think this portion of it, more things will be coming.
Yeah, that is something good that's come out of our experience over the past few years. And Ms. Jeanette, as we talk about, those things that were like a really type of processes within our faith. I know that the Catholic faith has some pretty specific ways in which their worship is done, or their church services are facilitated. Have you seen any change over the past several years in regards to being more accommodating?
I have. As a matter of fact, as I'm listening to the panel discussion, I'm thinking about a mother who actually went through the Partners in Policymaking class. And I'm still trying to figure out which one of her children actually has a disability, because All three of her children serve as altar servers. The kids are very active in the junior organizations within the church, and I have no idea which one of her children, or it could be all three, or maybe just one or two, but I have no idea. So, I mean, that's how we want to look at inclusion. Like, we just want them to be a part of it. We want them to be accepted. And so I'm seeing that so much now.
That's wonderful. And if you can just share a little bit more about, you at your introduction, you said that April was in leadership roles within the organization. Is it the Ladies Auxiliary of the Knights of Peter Claver? Can you
Yes.
explain a little bit more about her role and experience in that?
Okay, we actually joined the organization in September of 2019. And from the very beginning, April, she got with the head of our organization. I think she also talked to the lady in New Orleans as well, the Supreme Grand Lady. April was just very active. So those of you who know April, you know, that was her personality. So I was more in the background, but she, you know, she let them know, I want to do this, I want to do that. She was actually chosen as one of the delegates, and they only choose 2 people, but she was chosen as one of the delegates to attend the state conference that particularly for the year of 2020. And she was also going to the national conference as well. She was selected for that. So she took up on her own that was just April's personality. So she would also often make phone calls to various members of the organization just to check on them. If she saw a person who she thought was in distress, she would make that phone call just to check on them. And that was one of the things that we were supposed to do as members of our organization, is check on one another, or if we know somebody who's in distress, reach out to that person. So she was very active in those things. She also got the organization to make a monetary donation to one of the organizations here in Baton Rouge. I think it was Family Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge. We made a monetary donation because April asked that. Because we all, you know, that's one of the things we do. We are obligated to seek out different places in the community where we can make contributions. And April decided that we needed to do it for Family Helping Family, and we did that year, thanks to her.
I think that's just a great example as we're talking about how do we accommodate people with disabilities? How do we make people with give them a place where they can, their skills and everything they have to contribute, there's a place for that. And so I think that's a great example. And I have one other question for you, Ms. Jonette. Was this just another organization that April signed you up for? Actually,
I wanted to become a member, and April, whatever, she wanted to follow her mom. Whatever I did, she wanted to do it. So, you know, I mentioned to her one day, I'd like to join the Ladies Auxiliary. And she said, well, I'm joining too. So, I mean, I am the recording secretary, but I didn't say I want to be a recording secretary. You know, I was told that, you know, you can contribute to the organization by being the recording secretary. Mm-hmm. If April would have had a chance, you know, she'd have told them what she wanted to do, but I was more in the background, yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have a similar story where you can talk about how a person with a disability, their contributions to your faith and your religious organization?
When I was 13 years old, I was the director of the youth choir, and we would sing Amazing Grace all the time. You know, just growing up in the Baptist church, we sing Amazing Grace all the time. So my sister, she's nonverbal, but she knows how to sound some of the things. So she sings a song that she sings in her own little language, but she sings it in the tune of Amazing Grace, right? So when I was 15, I became over the music department. I was playing the piano, and back then I had an uncle. He was Down syndrome, And he would, when they realized that I was over the choir, I don't know, it just clicked to them. They wanted to be in the choir, so a lot of people like, oh, they just taking up space. And and I'm like, no, we're gonna let them sing, and we're gonna let them. And my sister, she wouldn't say anything until we sang Amazing Grace. And if I didn't sing, we didn't play Amazing Grace, it was a whole problem. And then my uncle Alvin, who's passed away, every Sunday I had to play something that he could clap to. I just had, I had to play those things, and those just their willingness and their wanting to be in the choir at that moment. A lot of people didn't understand it, but it was opening up other people's eyes to what they can and cannot do. People, when they think disability, they think limit, and but they were raising the bar. And my sister, till this day, every time we get on the phone, she sings her version of Amazing Grace, like every time. Like we could talk on the phone 4 or 5 times a day, and she will sing it. And that just that opened up such a greater place for me, because when I transitioned and started my own ministry, my the people who I service, and the people I serve as their pastor, they take my sister, and they take those with disabilities, and they it's like they're opened up to them now, because they see their leader doing, working with my sister, and not treating her different, and letting her exercise her right to serve her God in those spaces. So we don't look at it as such a big thing. But when we allow them to do do God their way, or do religion their way, it opens up other people's perspective to, hey, they can do this, they can serve God, they can serve their religion. So those are my thoughts on it.
We need more like you, Pastor. We definitely need more of you. We
Thank
just try to make it a point, when we give students, I'm also a Sunday school teacher myself, and I was also forced in the position because they had no one to teach my daughter at the time. So I was forced to stay there the whole 2-3 hours and start teaching the class. And I didn't even realize how much she was learning, but she started learning how to read Arabic. I have 5 children. She's the only one that speaks Arabic in different dialects. You drop her in Saudi Arabia, she speaks like them. You drop her in Egypt, she'll speak like them. She'll use different dialects with whoever's talking to her. I just make sure that that everyone around us know that just because we're giving accommodation doesn't, accommodations and equal rights doesn't mean we're taking away any of your rights. It's just equal rights and accommodation. It doesn't mean any less rights to anyone else. There was a seminar I think we went to once before with you, Bambi, when the authors of Shut Up About Your Perfect Kid a while back, and they were talking about how parents were saying, oh, how lucky you are that your kid has special needs. You don't have to worry about paying for such expensive uniforms and all these traveling. And I was, and a parent had to come and stop them. Like, did you not know the price of therapies and travel and the emotional stress a parent has to go through when they have to leave their other children behind so that they can travel to other therapies so far away from our homes because it's not close to us. And we get the kind of the same thing in the mosque where, they tell Najwa, hey, you're not wearing you're not wearing your scarf, right? Because we have to cover our hair when we're in the mosque. I'm glad that she's vocal. She's very, 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 a little too much self-confident. She has a lot of confidence. She'll talk back to people and she'll tell them, she's like, are you wearing it? If you're so uncomfortable, give me a pin and I'll put it in. And I was just so proud of her. But we do have preachers, and like I was telling Pastor, it really takes great leadership to show a community how we go, because it really does take a village. I didn't raise my daughter alone. I'm one of 6, my husband is one of 9, and I'm part of a huge community. And it really takes the whole village to help raise her. She is who she is because of the village and because we have great leaders. Like the pastor, our Prophet Muhammad one time was, he had asked someone in the service to say something. This was, of course, biblical times. And he had asked someone to say something, and one of his grandkids stood up and he had a stutter. Instead of him making, and everyone was getting so upset, he was taking so long to say what he was trying to say. he compared them, he told them, oh, you have a great, what was the word? You have inherited your stutter from the great, your uncle Moses, because Moses had a stutter. So instead of him making him feel sad about the stutter, he told him he had a trait that one of the prophets had before him, where now it's like, oh, well, now that everybody in the service wanted to have, a trait like Moses, peace be upon him. So we got to use our leaders to say these stories and to make sure everyone is just as important as everybody else, if not even a little bit more.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
We have a couple questions. I do have, Harlan talked about how transportation can be an issue, a barrier for people to attend religious meetings. So do any of your churches or religious organizations address that in any way?
We actually have a transportation ministry for our 10:30 mass. So if there's a need, everybody's accommodated. They can, they're picked up and brought back home.
I think that's great, because that addresses not just people with disabilities, but people who may have all kind of reasons why they don't have that transportation. So that's wonderful.
We just transport when we have our mother group coffee dates. We Rena Otella is also part of the organization, and she sits on the board for Muslim. So if we try to do it every month. We'll do one on the West Bank, one in the East Bank, so that we could try to make sure everyone gets a chance of coming in. And she'll travel with those that need it to the West Bank, and I'll take those that need it to the East Bank, and we'll just take turns like that. As of now, that's all we have.
Thank you. And we have another question about communion and people who have disabilities. So do you see any barriers, I guess, communion or any other type of just activity that the church engages with? Is there any barriers, or has there been any ways that you've overcome some barriers to participation in those type of activities?
I know in our church, we do communion once a month. And when we do communion in the main service, the children's service also does communion. And so from what I've seen, I'm not a part of that, so I don't know 100% what their process or procedure is. But from what I've seen, if a child doesn't want to get in the line to get communion, then they can receive it kind of after, when they off to the side, where maybe it's a little less stressful or a little less overwhelming. I've even seen them take communion to the child wherever they might be sitting with, whoever they're sitting with, to kind of help facilitate them receiving communion that way.
Okay, and another question we have is, does any of these organizations or faith-based facilities provide sensory kits or calming rooms for those with sensory overload?
Okay,
I believe
I'll
that
answer that. You can go ahead.
I believe we for when on Friday night services, we for children who think the service is a bit much, we provide babysitting.
Thank you. Shante?
Yes, in most the Baptist churches that I visited and that I'm a member of, here they normally, for communion, they do offer communion, and the children they can partake, in communion, participate in communion as well. So it's given individually to the person instead of going up the aisle and getting something and having to wait in line. So it's on an individual basis. So all they have to do is just go over and reach over in the tray and possibly get their communion out. That way it is not you're crowded in the front of the church trying to get your serving of communion. And I think you said something about the sensory kits as well. We do want the organization that I'm a part of, the Autism Society and Wonders Abiding Grace. They are offering churches or organizations that are needing sensory kits. They are offering those kits out to the community. They just have to contact us and let us know that they are in need of a sensory kit and possibly, some type of training on sensory issues or autism or anything like that.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you.
We have a bag of that we travel with our kids or those on the spectrum or anyone with sensory processing. So we have a bag with a weighted blanket, a couple of smushy things, and just things for sensory. We had purchased through Quiet Calm with Ann Dellery, and it traveled with us across the world, all the way to Saudi Arabia and back.
Mhm. Wonderful.
When I was younger, in order to receive baptism, you have to be the communion. You had to be baptized, and that means water submersion in our religion. So at first, we were kids, and my sister's she's 3 years younger than I am, and we were always, me and my brother was talking about, Annalisa can't do this. She can't get, she can't go through the water submersion. She doesn't understand it. What my dad did was he made an exception, and instead of doing the full thing, he did partial of it. And then he did a couple of more disabled people who didn't understand what was going on, but wanted to participate in that. And so I think that was pretty dope of him, and I think even around just the fact that he did it, and then other people seen that he did it and they followed suit, almost like a trendsetter in that aspect. Because a lot of them, that could be traumatizing, if you don't have the knowledge or just know what's going on. So we did that for my sister, we did that for my uncle, we did that for a couple of the people with disabilities, and I just think just being accommodating and knowing, hey, this what works for everybody may not work for this person, but they still need it, they still want it. We as the church, we have to make a way for them to get it.
Thank you very much. We are at the end of our session. We have about 3 minutes left, but if anyone has anything that you feel that you need or want to share, I'll allow that time to be provided to you.
I just want to thank you. I didn't get the chance to thank you for inviting me to be on this great panel with all these great, amazing people. I'm just proud of you, all of you. We're warriors and we're doing the best we can. So
Thank you very much. Thank you all for participating. 3 of our panelists were recruited at the last minute, and everyone showed up and came through, and I think we had a really great panel. I also want to recognize who's a governor's fellow who has been working with us over the summer, William Romero. He was the person who was supposed to be the facilitator, but he got called away for something today. So I'm certainly honored to be able to have facilitated this session, and appreciate all of you sharing your experiences. And we have a couple of more comments. The first one is from Miss Cynthia. She was making the comment to Miss Jonette to thank you so much for the contributions to Families Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge. April was an outstanding advocate and participated in many of our events. And every time I attend an IEP meeting to assist a family, I think of April. So thank you for sharing that. And then Lynette Fontenot, who is the chairperson of the Governor's Advisory Council on Disability Affairs, says that this is a beautiful session. Everyone needs God and faith in their lives, and having God in my life has made me a better person. And I can attest that there's probably no better person than Lynette Fontenot, and I'm certainly am honored to have her as the chairperson of our council. And then Miss Latina said, compliments to the panelists for all you do. It's much appreciated. Thanks for sharing. So thank you guys. And let's see, I think we have one more just popped up. from Liz Gary. This was a great session. Thank you all for sharing your experiences with us. So thank you, guys. We're at the end of our time. And again, we really appreciate your contributions to our conference.
Thank you.
And our next session will start at 12 o'clock. See you all then.